What is up, guys? We just got back from watching Spider-Man Brand New Day. Okay, this was the next installment within the MCU franchise. Now, Sony had a big part in this, obviously, because they own Spider-Man. Was it a 10 out of 10? How good was it? We will see. We'll break it down, let you guys know a little bit. This is a spoiler-free review. We will do our spoiler one later in the weekend, but ultimately, let's go ahead and dive into it. Questions are, is there a post-credit scene? Yes, there's a post-credit scene. Stay till the post-credit scene. It's not massive, but hey, it's content, so you should check that out. Is it something you take your kids to? No, you don't. You do not take your kids to this. It's not something good there. Now, we saw a lot of things in the trailers, so there will be some things to talk about that are in the trailers. If you haven't seen the trailers, maybe that'll be a spoiler, but most of the people have seen the trailers at this point, so we will talk about some of the things that were in the trailers, but not do actual spoilers of the main content. Now, the opening scene of this was great. You could tell from the beginning they were stepping up the cinematics. They were putting that CGI on another level. The choreography, the way he moved, really, really good. It really encapsulated Spider-Man. Honestly, from a choreographic standpoint, CGI standpoint, better than anything I think I've seen, even going back to the previous ones, Garfield and Maguire. So they did a wonderful job with that. Continuous fight scenes throughout the whole thing was great. They did a great job with the CGI. Some of the stuff was a little shaky with the way they did the camera and stuff. You couldn't really follow what was going on, but overall, you could get the gist of what they were doing. The power scaling was a little more consistent than usual, but there were some issues with power scaling of the different characters within there. Now, I do have some issue with some of the characters that they chose to put in here, some of the plots. Like, there's one character that just annoys me to death. I wish they didn't have that person in there. They could have switched it out for someone else, and I think they tried to put them in there for comedic relief, and it really did not hit. Speaking of the humor, I think they did a really good job of the humor. It wasn't, Thor Ragnarok type of thing. No, they did a good job balancing this. It wasn't too comedic. They had the serious moments, and when the comedy came in, it wasn't at a time that felt unnatural. So I think overall they did a really good job there. As we saw from the trailers, he's going through a little bit of I guess I would say erectile dysfunction, right? The arachnid form of it. And so, obviously we would imagine this would happen. It's been a while, since he's been with his friends, and, MJ, I mean, she forgot about him, and so he hasn't had anybody to be around in a while. Like, hey, these things happen. I get it. It happens. You guys out there, you can relate to this. Not because I haven't experienced that yet, fingers crossed, but hey, really, really cool way they showcase this, showcasing the distress of what he was feeling, what he was going through, and the way of how his mutation's working and what it's doing. Like, they encapsulated that really well within the story. I was very, very happy with that. Now, there were a lot of inconsistencies in my opinion, taking specific characters that we've seen in other things. The Punisher, who is in this, even the Hulk. Like, there are things that are inconsistent about the characters. Okay, there is a new character that is brought into this that we have seen before in other films, but not within the active MCU timeline. And so we see that person in there, and that is something that's very she's very, it's upsetting. It's upsetting to me in the way they were handled. I don't think that they handled this character well from understanding their abilities and understanding their power scaling. I think that there was a little bit of a miss there for me. Okay, now for other people, it might not be the case, but for me, it was. They did have some really cool historical things they went back to in the older comics, and some of the newer comics have had some things about this character and about their family and stuff like that. So that was a really cool touch to bring that in, because a lot of general fans of Marvel won't know that this person had a sibling, so it's really, really cool that they brought that in. So I thought overall that was really good. They did have a Lord of the Rings reference in this, which was great. I think they wasted a few scenes on some stuff that we didn't really need. I think they tried to put it in there to add to the emotional punch of some things, but guys, we got hit in the feels quite a bit in this, and I don't think we needed some of those scenes. They were kind of throwaways. Overall, I think it was developed well. The arc went well. The pacing was well. The lighting, the visuals, it was chef's kiss. It was fantastic. Now, on a scale of 10, what are you going to rate this thing? Guys, we are going to rate this thing a 9 out of 10. That's really, really high for us. I mean, ultimately, I really loved it. I had a great time. This was a 2.5 hour film, and I would have been happy sitting there watching 5 hours of this because they did it really well. If my bladder could hold out, because my bladder was telling me, stop, don't wait for that post-credit scene, get to the restroom. But hey, it was awesome. Okay, I've been to movies where I watch it, I'm like, hey, that was a waste of my hour and a half. I wish I could get that time back. No, I would have wanted to sit there through this thing again, and I probably will go watch it again this weekend. Take my wife this time, and I just think overall this was probably the best version of Tom Holland Spider-Man in my opinion. I think he really got the character and did a wonderful job. John Bernthal, great as usual. I think that there were some continuity things where I thought that the character shouldn't be in that situation and acting that way at that moment, but it's whatever. And that's trying to mix in things with Daredevil and stuff. And I know they're somewhat keeping those separate, but somewhat keeping them together. It's kind of confusing with what they're trying to do. But overall, I think that they did a good job introducing him into that. The Hulk made appearances in there. We saw from the trailer, so the Hulk is in there. There's some cool content and stuff in there. Again, continuity wise, it didn't really make sense how he was functioning and how he was inserted into the world within this film. But ultimately that's kind of it. I think it was great. I think they put some Easter eggs and things in there to kind of know the direction that they're wanting to go in moving forward. Some of the things they're looking to push for. We've seen the trailers for Doomsday, and that helps us give us some nuggets with what we saw in this as well with one of the characters that was brought in. So I think it was great. Power scaling, somewhat of an issue sometimes. Understanding the correct powers and abilities of certain people that they brought in was a little interesting to me that I think they missed the boat on. We'll talk more about that in our spoiler review later in the weekend. But again, a 9 out of 10, really worth it for your time. It's 2.5 hours, a lot more entertainment than you typically get. Go check it out in theaters. I think it's awesome. We will do our spoiler review later this weekend. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the content, hit that like and subscribe button. And remember, Christ is King.